We're wrapping up our series on getting started with Hungarian, and this is the last official episode in the series. Well, hello! Welcome to the Hungarian Living podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth Szabó-Voss. Our goal is to discover, celebrate, and share Hungarian heritage, and encourage you to do it too. We'll touch on food, travel, history, music, language, genealogy, and share stories from our guests. We're glad you're here. This is a podcast where we'll explore Hungarian heritage in a variety of ways. We'll introduce you to some fun people and organizations who love their Hungarian heritage and share some great resources with you so you can get connected to your Hungarian heritage in a deeper way. So whether you know a little or a lot about being Hungarian, this is the place to be. Szia! Welcome to episode 65 of the Hungarian Living podcast. This is part 8 of the Icipici Series on getting started with Hungarian. If you are tuning into this episode first, I recommend you go back and listen to the whole series, episodes 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, and 64. So you can have all the things that will help you get in a good space for getting started in Hungarian. It is important to be squared away and get started on the right foot. Now, let's talk about the dangers of perfecting a phrase that might get you into a little trouble. There have been numerous times I have been to a Hungarian festival and someone comes up to me and says, "Jó napot, hogy, vagy," which means, "Hello, how are you?" Well, I can answer that question with a question, and so I often do because I'm always excited to practice my speaking skills. And then the people typically say, "Well, that's all I've got," or "That's all I know," and the conversation switches to English. And that is perfectly fine. I love that they know as much as they do. In fact, I used to be able to only really say that much too, because that's something that I've heard again and again. We catch on to things quickly in those younger years. But I think it's fun to get to a place where I can go further in a conversation, and maybe I can get to a place where I can ask a few questions and have a sense of the answer. My husband, who is not Hungarian, does pretty well saying, "Nem beszélek magyarul," which means I do not speak Hungarian. Unfortunately, as he is saying that, he is indeed speaking Hungarian, and that actually gets him into trouble. So I guess he needs to change his answer to "Csak egy kicsit beszélek magyarul," which means I only speak a little Hungarian. So my caution to you is this. If you are going to perfect a phrase, be prepared to hear the very next thing in Hungarian. Those who speak fluently or like to practice will be so excited to hear that you speak Hungarian that they will definitely want to continue the conversation. So let's talk about how to do that. There are a lot of apps that you can download, and the free versions can be super helpful. I don't pay for all of the tools that I use for my Hungarian learning adventure. I pick and choose. I have used the free version of Duolingo the most, but there are also other ones like Quizlet and Drops. And I love Catch Budapest's One Hungarian Word a Day. Sometimes I like to listen to Hungarian folk songs by groups like Hogy, Viola and the Balkan Fanatics. And sometimes I challenge myself to memorize a few things like the first verse of the Hungarian national anthem, because then I can always be ready at a Hungarian event to sing the first verse, because it usually comes up. Actually, anything set to music is good for me. Children's songs come in handy when I want to sing to my grandkids. And I have actually used the Hungarian national anthem to sing them to sleep when they were babies, because it is a pretty slow song, and they don't care if I mispronounce something here or there. But there are peppy ones too, like Az a Szép and Debrecen Bekene Meni. Have you ever tried memorizing the Common Table Prayer? Or the first verse of the famous poem by Petőfi Sándor, the Nemzeti Dal, which is the national song. And it's a fun challenge. I've only tackled the first verse, and someday I will do more. It starts out with Talpra magyar, hi a haza, itt az idő, most vagy soha. That part loosely translates to "On your feet, your country calls you. This is the time, now or never." There will be some links to the show notes for some of these just to help you get started. One thing that might be helpful for you is to find a study buddy, someone you can report to about your progress and can help you celebrate your success. There are other Hungarian learners out there. We have collected quite a few in our classes. As I mentioned before, there is no substitute for engaging with a real person who understands how to teach Hungarian. So we have a number of options for you to consider, but you have to contact me. We can find a class for you if you are interested in taking your Hungarian language skills to the next level. We can help you find a place to belong, to be encouraged, as well as be challenged as you learn Hungarian. Our number is 1-800-786-7851. We have regular classes with an instructor, small groups that meet for an hour each week. Most of our sessions are 12 to 14 weeks long. We have review sessions. So if you have the Magyarok or Magyarok books and have worked through chapters 1 through 4 and want a review session, we've got you covered. And if you want a review session for chapters 3 to 5, we have that too. We don't do these review sessions all the time, so take advantage of them when they are offered. This is a great way to get a more solid foundation on the material you think you know or have learned before, but have possibly forgotten. Are you working through Hungarian material by yourself, but a little frustrated by not understanding what you're learning? Then the Hungarian Language Clinic is a perfect opportunity for you to ask your random grammar and vocabulary questions and get answers. We meet each week for 1 hour, and it is open season on our instructor, who can field all sorts of questions with patience and wisdom. Or just come and listen to all the questions others bring until you get the courage to ask your own. This is a fun and friendly group. And speaking of fun, if you want to practice your Hungarian speaking skills, and this is definitely where I am still a bit nervous, but every time I practice, I'm glad I do. Our dialogue sessions are a great way to get busy speaking and get feedback from the instructor. The dialogues are preset, so you don't have to worry about making grammar mistakes. You just have to focus on the pronunciation piece, and bit by bit, you will get there. For a more in-depth explanation of our Hungarian dialogue sessions, check out episode 17 of the Hungarian Living podcast. And episode 38 talks a little bit more in depth about our Hungarian language learning opportunities. Don't worry, even though this is the last official episode of the Icipici Series on getting started with Hungarian of the Hungarian Living podcast, we will surely do more episodes about learning Hungarian. We have more Icipici and full-length podcasts coming up. As always, if you have a suggestion or comment, please contact us at podcast@hungarianliving.com. We'd love to hear from our listeners. And if you want to take a class, you need to call us right away at 1-800-786-7851. We are based in the U.S., and we will help get a class for you. We are delighted to see we have listeners from all over the world, and it is amazing. Truly, we are excited about the positive response and encourage you to recommend this podcast to others. Thanks for listening, and have an awesome week. Do you want to learn the Hungarian language, Hungarian history, or learn how to research the Hungarian side of your family? We've got you covered. Check out all our learning opportunities, as well as meaningful books and gifts at thehungarianstore.com. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode of the Hungarian Living podcast, please share it with someone you know who loves their Hungarian heritage. If you own a business and would like to talk about sponsoring an episode of the podcast, please contact us at podcast@hungarianliving.com for more information. Special thanks to Stephen Chichek and the Animal Cannibals for the show music. Check out our show notes for links to resources mentioned in this episode. If you have a question or comment, we'd love to hear from you. We'll catch you next time.